Okay, in this video, we are going to talk about subsetting a data set in Rguroo, but for qualitative data values or categorical. So I am in Hawk's Learning in section 4.4 and in the practice mode. Here is one of the questions that you will be looking at. So suppose you are a craft beer lover taking a trip to Brooklyn on business and you want to be sure to stop at one of the local breweries while you are there. Using the beers and brewery data set from a companion website, subset the data so that you're only looking at those brewed in Brooklyn. Now, let me mention, anytime that we are in Hawk's Learning and they reference the named data set from this site, know that that data set already is preloaded into Rguroo. So you do not need to click the web access. You do not need to download anything. You do not need to go to this website. I will show you how to find the data set in Rguroo. Now, before we even read what they want us to calculate, I strongly recommend you pause here. You find this data set in Rguroo and make sure you have it loaded in your data window. And then you subset that data set to the way they want it subsetted before you attempt to read the question. So let's head over to Rguroo now. So I was doing something earlier, so let me close out these windows. I should have did that before I started recording, but didn't think of it. Okay, there we go. So in order to get the beers and brewery data set from the repository, we are going to come over here to data import, and we're coming over here to data set repository. Okay, I was already working in here earlier in the quantitative subsetting video. So it is already kind of reminding me this is where I was last, which is a kind of nice feature in Rguroo. It reminds you within one logged in session what you've already done. So once you find the book, you will already be able to have the data sets already here within one logged in session. And what I mean by that is the moment I log out of Rguroo, this all clears out. So if I'm doing my homework and I'm still logged in, then it will remind me what I did last. When you first come in here, you're going to be at the top of the screen though, and this would be cleared out. Where is it? Okay, I can't unselect it apparently. You wouldn't see anything under here if this was the first time you were doing it in a logged in session. You would scroll until you find our book. The name of our book is the first thing that you see when you click Hawk's Learning in the Blackboard link. It is called Discovering Statistics and Data. It is always the Hawk's Learning book that is right underneath the Rguroo user guide. But it is not the only Hawk's Learning book in this dataset repository, so be careful to click on the right one. Once you click on this Hawk's book, then these data sets will populate underneath. Again, it's already done because I was already in here earlier today. And I'm looking for beers and brewery. So here I find the beers and brewery data set that they reference in the homework. And I'm going to click, once I select it, okay, there we go. And it's selected, it's staying blue. I'm going to import that data set into my data window. A little box will appear that says it has been successfully imported. Again, mine has a 2 next to it only because I've done this a couple times. And I'm going to click OK. I can see a quick summary that there are 2,396 rows or observations in this data set. And the columns are how many variables I have. So there are 10 different variables included in this data set. Once you have imported the data set, close out the import window. And let's take a look at what that data set looks like. So double clicking on the data set in the data window will open up the data set. It's important to open up these data sets because you want to familiarize yourself with what is in the data set itself. Every column is labeled with a different variable, and every row represents an observation. So this row represents a specific beer at a specific brewery in a very specific location, and all the other characteristics that are involved in that one beer, and so on. Notice that some of the variables are shortened names. That is very common in a data set. And on the internet, if you're going to government websites looking for data sets, you would find that every data set comes with what's called a data dictionary, where they list out such as ABV and tell you what ABV stands for and what that variable, how it was calculated, what are the units on it. For our purposes, everything we need to know will be written inside of the Hawks homework problem. So if they want us to use one of these variables that we are unsure what it actually stands for, it's explicitly mentioned in the homework problem. So it wanted me to subset only the location of Brooklyn, if I recall. Yes, it says only show beers brewed in Brooklyn. So in order to do that, I am going to come up to data, functions, subset. Select your data set. So I need to find my beers and brewery data set. And we need to now tell it how we want to subset this entire data set. So we're going to open up a logical expression. We are going to use our green little plus sign to add an expression line. We need to know what variable we want to focus on. And since this wants us to subset based on Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is a city, then I am going to need the variable to be city because you're going to find Brooklyn under the variable name city. In categorical or qualitative subsetting, like we are doing right now, you are either going to be setting the variable equal to a value, and in rare cases, not equal to. Most of the homework you're going to be doing an equal to sign if it is qualitative. Every single one of the cities should be pre-populated in this drop-down menu, and they are in alphabetical order, making it easier to know approximately where you should scroll to. So here I find Brooklyn. And once I have set up how I want them to subset, I'm going to click done, and I'll click my eyeball. Now notice in this tab that it is red. Red means that the data set hasn't been saved yet. And in the subset feature, it means that you can't do any math. This is actually the subset function. And you need to save the data set and open the data set in order for it to look like this, where it's green and it has a little data set symbol. And that's where you will be able to do calculations. So we are going to want to take a quick look to make sure that it did subset properly. So I'm going to come over here to the variable name that I used to subset and just do a quick scroll and make sure that every single city listed here is Brooklyn. Looks good to me. One little glitch or nuance that Rguroo has is its default setting is to save the parameters. But if you keep this box checked, after you save the subset, everything will be locked and you still will not be able to do calculations like sorting inside of the dataset editor. So you are going to want to unselect that box prior to saving your subset. So I'm going to save this beers and brewery and Brooklyn so that I can know what this subset is, one, part of beers and brewery, and two, how it was subsetted. When I click Save As, oh, it's telling me that I have two of these, so I'm going to have to put a 1 after. It's because I did this earlier today. When I click Save As, it tells me that it saved successfully. Notice that it doesn't automatically open up that data set. I'm still in the subset function. So we will have to come here to the data window and double click your saved subset to open it up. So if you notice the difference, red subset little icon and green dataset icon. Once we get to this point, we can now go back to Hawks and actually read what is the question they want us to find. So now they're asking us which craft beer has the highest alcohol by volume, ABV. Oh, I remember when we were looking through that data set that ABV was one of the column headers, one of the variables in the data set. So I need the highest, the largest ABV. All right, so let's head over to Rguroo. We are going to want to sort the ABV variable. When clicking on this variable name, this is telling me that it is sorted from smallest to largest. So up top here is the beer that has the lowest ABV. Since the problem wants to know the highest ABV, I'm going to click this variable again. And I can see that now the highest ABV is listed at top. It wants to know in the homework the beer name and the brewery that beer with the highest ABV comes from. So I highly recommend that you copy and paste because it is super picky on how you enter these. So the beer name is called Four Beans. So if I double click, it'll already be highlighted. If I hit Control C, I can copy, or if you're on a Mac, Command C. And I can either Control V if you're on a Windows computer or Command V if you're on a Mac to paste it in the beer name. Now I need to find the brewery. So staying in the same row, I go over until I find the brewery name. I can't tell which one's the brewery name besides the fact that this is number, so it's probably not this row. But just so you know, if you can't read the whole name and you need to, you can come up here between the variables until you get a double-edged arrow. Click, hold, and drag. Oh, I triple clicked. Click, hold, and drag, and that will allow you to see the whole name if you need to see it. So click, drag. Brewery name. 6 Point Craft Ales is in the same row as the highest ABV. So I'm going to double click. Again, Control C for Windows computers, Command C for Mac computers to copy. And paste by using Control V or Command V, depending on what computer you have. And then when I submit my answer, yay, I have a correct answer here. So this is how you would subset when you are subsetting using categorical variables. So this was subsetted by the name of the city, that's a category. If you need to subset by a numerical or quantitative variable, please check out the other Rguroo technology video that discusses quantitative subsetting.